By listening to this conversation with Mandy Alexis, you may find the courage, insight, and inspiration to finally release those patterns and create a space for change, growth, and a version of yourself that feels freer, lighter, and fully active. Mandy Alexis is a creator, storyteller, and guide whose work is deep rooted in personal transformation. After spending 16 years navigating addiction and the emotional patterns that shaped her early life, she rebuilt herself through a journey that led her across Central America, where she confronted burnout, depression, and a full mind body reset. Addiction, heartbreak, and a wake up call led Mandy Alexis to reinvent herself. In this episode, she shares her journey to recovery, how she discovered her passion for inspiring others, and why she believes change is possible no matter how long you've been stuck. Today, her work reminds others that beauty still exists, that growth is possible, and that we are capable of creating a life that feels aligned and inspired. Welcome to today's episode of Her Energy Unlocked, Mandy. I'm so excited to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much for to be here too.
When I learned about your story and your journey, it feels like it's such a big transformation. And I think the people who will be listening to my podcast, like no offense, men, but it's mostly women, I would say over 35, and either have gone through struggles themselves, whether it be things like addiction, or may have somebody in their life who's going through addiction. And I think a lot of people will get a lot of inspiration from how you were able to change your life around. But I think it's really important to get into the deep steps of what it took for you to get there. And so why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, just to touch on like this whole addiction thing. So I was addicted to cocaine for 16 years, but my use of drugs actually started when I was 12. That was the first time I tried marijuana. And then that quickly, like we kept experimenting with other things by 14, like 13, 14 already with alcohol, but then also like mushrooms, acid. Then by 15, we were like trying ecstasy, all still well, alcohol involved in these journeys as well. So like then I turned 19, I'm in the bar scene a bit more and stuff, and then that's when, the cocaine came in, and if I'm, like, super honest, like, I loved it, like, I was like, "Wow, like, what is this?" But, I mean, that is the idea, it gives you this insane dopamine hit, right? I always had, like, told myself, like, "Oh, when I'm ready, like, I can quit." Like, and I really believe that. And it was a wild journey for me because my outside world, like I was very functioning. So I was still going to like second like to school. I was volunteering. I opened a business. Like I would show up at all my family functions. But like I was very addicted without even really being able to I'd say accept it because I was still able to continue like moving through life.
Like, you're still addicted to something, but you're still functioning. Like, and I think, it'd be interesting to know if people around you thought you were addicted to anything, if you were still showing up on time. We have these stereotypes on what somebody who's addicted to drugs looks like or alcohol. And it's people who don't hold down jobs or, are never attending family functions. They're definitely not volunteering. That's like living two different lives.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty wild. And I mean, like sometimes like I would be up for like 2 days straight and still go to work, like for my shift. So it was like, I think I told myself, like, oh, it's okay because like I'm still, like I said, functioning in life. And I hit a point where I realized like my brain was actually like just starting to change in a way that I was, like just felt really uncomfortable. I was having trouble like being home alone. Like if I was home alone, I started using. And so then it was like, wasn't just about the party, right? When we started or when I started, it was, we're going out, we're being social. And I was a server for years. So then it's like, it was very common for you to find it in the restaurant scene and hospitality. And then, you're working late nights and then you're heading to the bar and then you're sleeping all day, but that's because you're not starting work till like 6, 7 o'clock at night sometimes, right? Like, so yeah, so it kind of like got a hold of me so easily in a way because it was everyone's lifestyle around me.
You noticed your brain chemistry altering and you're like, hey, wait a minute here. This isn't good. So when was that moment? You said you started using at age 12, the marijuana started.
So yeah, yeah. So that was just like marijuana, like started taking at age 12. And then Yeah, so
Yeah.
already you're changing
Yeah,
your
because your brain
chemistry, right?
isn't developed at that age.
And no, 25 is the age your brain is fully developed. So I was messing with it for like almost 10 years, like, or over 10 years.
When was the moment that the light bulb went off that, "Hey, I need to change this," or, "This is a serious issue"?
I think it would like I started to feel really like uncomfortable. Like it wasn't really like when I like I said I was at home doing it alone. I was like, "Oh my god, like this is bad. Like this isn't fun anymore. Like I'm using because I feel uncomfortable within and I'm trying to take that feeling away. And I know like if I do this it will help, right?" So like, I mean, it did not happen overnight. It was a journey. It took me a few years actually to finally like let go completely. But my turning moment of when I was like, okay, I really have to like shape up or I'm gonna lose myself completely was like I was dating a man who had a child. And my thing was, who do I want to be for this kid, to be honest? So I was like, if we're gonna get serious and I'm gonna be potentially a stepmother, there was no way I was gonna wanna bring this version of me into this child's life. Like, my father is an alcoholic, and, like, I would never wanna put that kind of strain or confusion or just, like, emotional instability, like, that being addicted to something can cause someone into a kid's life.
That's a really powerful introspect because some people think that that's just normal, right? If your parents or one of your parents is heavily using medication or alcohol to soothe themselves, that's the normalcy you grow up with. And I feel like based on conversations I've had with people, you either hate alcohol completely and are like, I'm never touching that because I've seen what it does, or you're fully into it. And so do you think being around that sort of parent kind of led you down this path too?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like he let us party in his house, right? Like he was a very absent father for my younger years. And then he finally got more stable when I was around 12. And then he was like, I know you guys are going to be experimenting. He would never buy us anything. But he's like, I'd rather you be doing it in the house than wandering the street. So in his own way, he was trying to like keep us safe. But I mean, we were allowed, like we were it was a space where we could be and experiment and go down that path and without I mean, my mother, when she would find out, would obviously scold me, but, yeah, it was very so it's interesting being an adult and knowing what I know about, like, the subconscious mind and trauma and things like that, because I think for sure a part of it was the experimental part, like, what will this do? But then knowing about trauma and some like just what like escaping, like it was like, why at that young of age would we as a group, right? There was a bunch of us doing it, but like what are we escaping? And like I can only speak about my traumas, but like, my father could be a very angry drunk. So, you know, from age 0, like having that implanted in my being and then because as a child and a kid, you don't know everything that's happening to you. You don't know what's going on in your subconscious mind. So I could see looking back that that was little Mandy trying to create a more euphoric reality, right? But in during those times, I was just like, "Oh yeah, we're just experimenting." Like,
Maybe it was also a way to relate to your dad, right? Because he was the one giving you permission and you were like, "Oh, well, if I do this, like he'll be happy," right? Like he's the adult in the relationship and he's the guidance. What was the first step you took towards your healing journey?
so I had to stop doing everything that I had been doing for years, like socially, right? Because everything would end up towards like, drinks and cocaine and stuff. So even something like bowling, which seems like such a like a wholesome activity to the most part, right? So I had to just really I had to isolate myself to a degree but I had like 1 or 2 friends that we would go for ice cream. We would, just go for drives sometimes, like just to get me like out of the house. I was very blessed with the fact that I was able to actually like I had a trip planned to Costa Rica and I was able to stay out there 2 months, like very shortly after I had made this decision to be able to like really separate myself and be in nature and be like just a whole new everything. I know that's not everyone's reality, just lined up that way for me, but just changing environment in general, like that is the number one thing you have to do, because if you're surrounding yourself in it still, like, you'll never be able to escape it, right? So that was my first steps, changing my entire environment. And then also like discovering what do I like to do sober. Like, like, so that was actually, I made it into a fun experience, right? Like trying all these new things and getting excited like a child, like for the first time and stuff like that. I also did a lot of studying around the mind and like how to shift my mindset. So I used Dr. Joe Dispenza's Rewired course, and that helps with like understanding how it all works and there was meditations and just like explanations around like that we can change our pathways. So I stopped referring to myself as an addict. Like, like I've heard people in AA like they're told like, oh, you're always going to be in recovery. And I feel like that is such a limiting thing to place on someone, because then they're always stuck in this version of them that they're trying to get out of if they're thinking that they're always going to be in recovery. So I'm like, I'm recovered. I'm done with that part, right? And I think it puts a huge weight off of me in a sense, because I'm not going into the world scared if like someone's drinking beside me, or like if I want to go dancing in the club, like I'm a whole new version of myself.
I always say you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with. If you're listening to this and you're realizing that, hey, maybe my alcohol consumption or maybe my marijuana consumption right now is getting a little out of hand, I think, and I've never like, this is just observation, so I'm not a medical clinician to provide this, but just from what I'm listening is taking an audit of who you're spending your time with and what they are doing with their time. If they're runners and doing 5Ks every weekend, you're going to naturally want to get some running shoes and start running. But if they're in the environment where these unhealthy habits are developed almost to the point where they're validated and that's no longer serving you, it's time to ask, well, do these values align with me? And do I want to be around them? I do think it'd be very difficult to still be in that environment and in the recovery stage, I would say, because that temptation is there.
Yes, of course. No, no, no. Until I was fully in my recovery stage, I was nowhere near that scene. No, 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 no. You can't. I tried, and that's when one of the times I thought, oh, I'm good, right? Like I went like a few months or something, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I can. Nope, that wasn't long enough, and I had that one drink, and away we go. So like, no, I do not recommend.
So how did the recovery change the way you saw yourself?
Well, I was able to love myself more once, like getting on the other side of recovery. Also, just to really see how like powerful I am, or humans are in general, right? Like I made the decision, and even though I stumbled a few times, like I wasn't going to give up. And the fact that I was able to reprogram like neuropaths and even change like my chemistry in my body, like just by the pure want of it, the desire. It just solidified this like we as humans really like, can achieve and can do anything we desire as long as we keep going at it.
Yeah, and so what did you have to let go of in order to heal?
I had to let go of a lot of friendships. I had to also put up very big boundaries with some family members as I was healing, because that version of me that was accessible all the time couldn't be, right? I needed to really take that step back of being available to everyone.
How did you set those boundaries besides eliminating yourself from that social group? What were other rules or things that you kind of lived by?
I made sure I changed my habit. Like I did healthy things. My rules were, like I always kind of worked out and all that stuff, but I made it part of the new version of me. And I will say, like my first year and a half was like extremely intense in a lot of ways. And any addict who's going through this will know, like your brain chemistry is changing again. And I actually would feel very off a lot, like, because you're used to feeding yourself this substance. And so I had to really focus on working out, getting my dopamine in the healthy ways again, right? So working out and meditation. I had a few friends that I trusted to be around, not only who didn't like party, but in the sense of that could hold space for this transitioning version of me that was sometimes very challenging to be around.
As you're going through withdrawals, right? Like,
Yeah, and just change like, I lived with my best friend for a bit during it, and, like, I needed things so structured, like, I needed to work out at this time in the basement and then do this, and it's because 'cause you're like, I mean, it makes sense, I'm trying to gain control in some way, and if something was off, like, I would have a little tantrum, like, it was, like, almost like I couldn't control it, like, but he understood what I was going through and was just so patient and so loving.
so who or what became your biggest support during this recovery process?
Well, like I said, my best friend Lauren was definitely like a huge support. I definitely wouldn't have been able to get through a lot of it without her. And then I had another friend who actually had gone through like a recovery as well, and she was sober for 7 years. So she was a huge like help for me too, because she understood a lot of like the pain I was feeling like physically and what was happening to me.
So what were some of the healing tools you used during the recovery? You talked about one of the courses you took, you talked about working out and journaling. Some of these tools may not resonate with everybody, but I feel like it's important to try them all out.
Yeah, so meditation was a big one. Journaling was one. Also, like not being like releasing my emotions. Like sometimes I would have to scream into a pillow, like not being afraid to just feel what you're feeling and like let it out. Like I don't think on a person, on an individual, but like, like punch the pillow if you need to, like freaking have that ugly cry, like, like that holding on to that stuff is it's just, it's not helpful, even if you're not an addict. Like, like, so that was a huge one, like, just really honoring my feelings and stuff, being active in any way, really body movement, dancing, singing, like all these things that are just like accessible to us so easily, just movement really, really helped. If I start to feel antsy or, because, you want that, go for a walk, dance around the kitchen, call my niece, tell her I'm taking her to the park, like, like
Exercise is the most underutilized antidepressant. And any forms of exercise, whether it be walking, running, jogging, whatever it is, yoga, but some sort of body movement, it does release endorphins into your body that just make you feel good. Were you in South America at this time too?
So I was in South America for 2 months to just it kind of catapulted me, and then I came home. I actually had to move out of where I was living because my roommate couldn't, like she couldn't get out of that party scene, and I was like, "Well, then I gotta go." So, yeah, so that's when I moved in with the friend that had been addicted before. She helped me through that part, and then, yeah, I did go back to Central America for a bit and came back, moved in with my best friend who helped me get through, like, the next part. So, yeah, I was very, like, grateful to have people who were already out of that scene or never in it. That's a big one that sometimes your soul environment is just one thing, like, right? Like, one version.
I'm going to speak to people who may be surrounded by somebody who's, either addicted to something right now and you're trying to kind of pull them out and help them out. But at the end of the day, that person who's going through it has to make that decision. And it sounds like you made a bunch of small decisions along the way. There's not, just not one turning point, but there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. This works. I feel better now. Okay, now I got to commit because I'm sure this journey to recovery was extremely, extremely difficult to go through. When did you finally start feeling mentally and emotionally like safe again?
I think it was about a year and a half. It took me to feel like calibrated again, right? And because I mean, I had been literally using some type of drug since I was 12, and I guess it would have been. I remember we partied on my 35th birthday, and I was like, "What am I doing?" Like, So that was the last year that I had celebrated like that. It was the year like that. Going into that year was when I was really like, "Oh my God," right?
I've read about addiction. The addiction is there because you are trying to hide from the pain or suppress the pain, and you're trying to do something that feels good in that moment. I really look at addiction a lot differently now. We talked a little bit earlier about the fentanyl crisis that's happening. I live in the lower mainland, and it's really sad because we don't know like each one of those addicts we see has gone through something in their life that's led them to this, whether it be environmental factors and that's the addiction we see. And I feel like you were the addiction that people don't see. the ones that are still able to function. When we think of addiction, at least here in the Lower Mainland, when we think of addiction, we think of somebody on East Hastings that is slumped over, but that's not the full picture of addiction.
No, it's not. And I mean, like, I had lots of like, there was lots of pain that I was just shoving down.
So how did your healing journey inspire you to start your own business?
Well, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit, to be honest. Like I said, I had opened a business when I was still very much into that part of my journey. So, but this next phase, like, I just feel like I obtained a lot of knowledge around the inner workings of being human, basically, like things that like school, things that I mean, a lot of us were never taught, no fault of our parents, like things, we're learning new things all the time. But I really wanted to offer my knowledge and wisdom and experience in kind of like a more rounded package of like the inner world of being human with the touch of like, the spiritual and the emotional, like having all the things that helped me get to where I am in one place and help people.
So how do you help women who are going through this process?
So yeah, so right now I have like it's called the Journey Inward workshop. So it goes through, the mind, the body, the heart, the soul. Just explaining how all those work individually and how they're all intertwined as well, offering, practices and tools to be able to reconnect with someone, with oneself, and, move through any like limiting beliefs, uncomfortable emotions, maybe blocked energy or traumas, and just having all of the tools in one package.
A lot of women find themselves stuck, and a lot of moms find themselves stuck and losing their identity through the process of having children. And now, they're in their mid 40s, kids are older now, and then they're like looking around going, who am I? What am I limiting myself to? The limiting beliefs is a big one. And so when people are like, oh, well, I can't do that, I'm like, well, somebody obviously told you somewhere from 0 to 5 that, hey, you're not capable of this. So identifying those sort of things of the limiting belief and being able to really find passion in what you do is so important. So that's amazing. You're able to turn around your journey and now help women discover themselves or rediscover themselves in a new environment or a new age. How do past experiences really shape the way women are?
Like, I mean, we are just a bundle of our experiences, right? So, but that doesn't mean it has to define how we are or how we interact or how we react, and I think a huge part of being able to take those experiences and not let them, if they're, good or bad, but just not let them just be what you are, is the self-awareness part, right? Like seeing if that experience affected you in a negative way and how you're using that in your world today.
What's something you wish women who are rediscovering themselves figure out sooner rather than later?
No judgment on ourselves. No judgment. Explore yourself with curiosity. Don't judge yourself for who you were, what you've done, all that stuff. Just hold curiosity around it and love and just move forward in that mindset, because the judgment part really can limit us and block us from being able to kind of see life in a certain way or ourselves. I think that's been very, very helpful for me.
I think every day's a new slate, and how you show up for yourself or the people around you, those are choices you make every day. And sometimes we tell the story that, well, I can't do this or I'm not worthy of this. But at the end of the day, it is your choice on how you want to live your life. Wow, that's really, really powerful. So what does reclaiming your life on your terms actually look like in practice?
It's holding yourself accountable, really.
How so? How so am I going to hold myself accountable on this journey?
Call yourself out on your crap. Okay. Yeah, like, and because like I said, when I was going through, like when I had decided I wanted to get out of being an addict, I still fell back sometimes and I would hold myself accountable. Like there were friends around me being like, "Oh, it's okay." Like it was,
Yeah.
it was just one day, it was just one week. And I was like, no, I was like, absolutely not. Like I have to own that I went against something that I was like, I'm trying not to do and not make it okay. Like, like I hold love, responsibility, and anger at on it. Like, not anger in a bad way, but just anger so that I would be like, "Mandy, like, you can do better." Like, I had to call myself out or I would have just been like, "Oof, I guess it's fine." Not
That's really important, I think, in the recovery process too, is those slip ups can be very detrimental in, the relapses. And so saying, hey, no, 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 this is not who I am now. This doesn't align with my values. I need to wake up and be accountable. But I think, then we're the conflicting message is like, oh, we got to give ourselves grace and like,
well, to a degree though, right? Like, you can be loving with yourself in the sense like, I am human. I made a mistake. I hold love around that, but like, smarten up, girl. Like, like,
I'm looking at you right now, and there's like it goes back to what the definition of what we think an addict looks like. And I would not look at you right now and be like, this woman had this recovery story because you're a beacon of light and happiness. Good for you being able to do this because I can only imagine how difficult it was. What does life feel like now compared to what it was before? If you can go back to that 12, 14, 16-year-old Mandy and see her and you're like looking over and looking at her, how is life so much more different?
it is different in like I think every way. Like, I feel a lot lighter. I feel more peaceful. Like, I can be by myself and not be like itching to run away from whatever's happening in here. Like, yeah, like lighter is probably the biggest thing. The weight that I would carry with all that experience and just like the darkness that being addicted to drugs and alcohol can bring. Like, I definitely feel way lighter, way more peaceful, way more just satisfied with like a very simple day.
What is one thing, if somebody's listening to this, what is the one thing you want them to take away from the conversation we've had today?
Just to believe in themselves. Like, really, like that's what it comes down to. Like, that's where it all starts, just believing that you can do it. And honestly, I would look for real life examples. Like, one of my favorites is this 4 minute, the full 4 mile run. You know that story? Like, they it was just told, everyone was told, "You cannot run faster than this 4 mile run, like, this is it, that's it." And then one person was like, "I'm gonna try." And they broke this record, and then shortly after that, 54 people broke it within the next, like, few months because they made the mind shift. Like, they were told it can't happen, it's not a thing. One person, yeah, and then after that, people started it was wild the amount of people that after they broke it, how many people could do it because their mind shifted. So, like, that I'm just getting shivers talking about it.
I'm definitely going to look into that. So amazing. I'm so excited to have had you on the show. You really, such an inspiration. And you really are, because I can only imagine how difficult this journey is and the road of self-discovery and holding yourself to be during this journey is very, very admirable. And I hope people have gained some sort of strength listening to today's episode. I will have additional resources if you know somebody going through addiction or you yourself are questioning whether or not you are going through addiction. Please check out the show notes where additional services and professional support will be linked in, and also Mandy's contact information. So much for joining me on this episode of Her Energy Unlocked. I hope Mandy's story reminded you that transformation is always possible, no matter how long you've felt stuck or how deep the challenges you have faced. If there's one takeaway to hold on to, it's that healing and growth are a journey, and every step, no matter how small, matters. Be gentle with yourself, lean into your curiosity, and give yourself permission to release what no longer serves you. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and continue the conversation on Instagram or TikTok at Her Energy Unlocked Podcast. I cannot wait to hear from you. Until next time, remember, your energy is yours to reclaim, your story is yours to rewrite, and your next chapter is waiting. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.